Hi, my name's Chandra. I thought I'd make a video to share with you today. Now, over the past few months, I've been watching many videos of some of my favorite hypnotists, some of the mentors, you could say. And I've even seen quite a few of them at HypnoThoughts Live recently. I'd like to thank Carl Smith for encouraging me to just get out there and do it. Now, I know you probably weren't actually talking directly to me. You're probably talking to the whole audience, me, and encouraging me to do this. So here I am doing it. And I'd also like to thank Lori Hammond for encouraging me and everybody else to get out there and do what we love, to let people know who we are and what we do, and to explain it in a way that makes sense to us because it might actually make sense to somebody else in the same way. So here I am today, creating a video for you to explain how trauma affects the brain. So here we go. We have two parts of our brain. Actually, we have lots of parts of our brain, but we have two main hemispheres of our brain. We have a left side and a right side. In fact, let me pull these out just to show you. So I have these two bookends. And so just imagine that each one of these bookends is a side of your brain. So we have a left side of our brain and we have a right side of our brain. Now the left side of our brain controls the whole right side of our body. And the right side of our brain controls the whole left side of our body. Kind of interesting, right? Now, it's commonly known that the left side of our brain is the analytical side of our brain. It's the part of our brain that does the math, that can figure out how to get from point A to point Z. It analyzes the environment to figure out what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Now, the right side of our brain is commonly known as the creative side of our brain. This is the part of our brain that connects with music, art. It sees the colors, it sees the beauty. It has more of the creative emotions in it. Analytical, creative. And when both of them work together, it's an amazing thing. But I want to tell you, whenever we find ourselves in a situation that requires both parts of our brain to work, the creative, imaginative side of our brain will always take over. It will always win. So maybe you found yourself in a situation where you acted emotionally. Logically, you knew, oh, that little bitty mouse, it's about that big, running across the floor, can't hurt me. In fact, even if it did bite me, it might be a little bit discomforting or painful, but I'm not going to die from it. It's not like it's a lion or a bear, right? But the emotion part of the brain says, oh, heck no, we ain't doing that. And it fires all of the emotions, and then you react and you jump up on top of the table and you're like squealing and like, get it away. And it's just a little mouse. It's because the emotion side of our brain always wins. There's another part of our brain that I also want to explain to you. And this is the part of the brain that activates whenever there's that fearful situation. Like let's say that mouse that runs across. As soon as that happens, our emotion part of our brain fires, but what happens right before that is this part of our brain. Thank you, Carl Smith, for introducing me to this wonderful high-tech psychological model of the part of our brain that fires when we're feeling an intense emotion. You can get it on Amazon. I think I paid like $10 for it. So we have the part of our brain that some people call the lizard brain. It's the automatic part of our brain that makes us respond without thinking. I also know it to be called the amygdala. The amygdala is a very teeny tiny little part of our brain that fires emotions such as fear and anger. It's two of the survival emotions. When that little bitty mouse walks across, the amygdala fires and goes, oh my gosh, a mouse, I'm going to die. It's going to kill me. And it fires like this, opening up, making you really aware. And then your body says, oh, let's save ourselves, and you jump up on the table, okay? The amygdala. So I'll explain a little bit more about the amygdala to you. So the amygdala is with us from day one. In fact, we are born with fears. We're only born with two of them. Everything else, such as the fear of mice, we learn. We learn how to be afraid of everything except for loud noises, because we instantly have the startle response, because we need to know if that loud noise is attached to a lion, tiger, or a bear, oh my, and save ourselves, or falling. And so if you've ever had a baby and you've seen them, then they go down, like if you don't do this like intentionally, but in case you see it, they go down, their arms splay out. I mean, it's a survival mechanism to try to catch themselves from falling. Two fears, that's it. Everything else is learned. Let's say that there's a thunderstorm, and thunderstorms are sometimes loud because of the thunder and the lightning, and the thunder rolls across the sky, and you hear the loud noise, and the amygdala goes, oh, what is that? And it opens up really big. And let's say you have mom or dad who's really kind and comforting, And they come up to you and they're like, oh, that's okay. It's just thunder. It's the angels bowling out up in heaven, and they're just having a good time. And you're going to be safe because you're here with me. And then amygdala calms back down into its normal shape, and it feels safe again. Let's say the lightning crashes across the sky. The amygdala fires again. But let's say you still have a comforting person around you that says, that's okay. That's just an angel painting across the sky with a lightning bug that makes this beautiful scene for you to see. And you calm back down. But let's say for whatever reason, you don't have anybody there comforting you. And when the thunder and the lightning strike and you hear it and you activate with fear, you stay this way. And there's nobody there to help you calm down. And you're activated until the end of the storm. And so all this fear stays inside of your brain and it gets put into the subconscious mind. Thunderstorms are scary and it stays there. So then the next time a thunderstorm happens, you're already primed to activate and stay afraid even longer. So then when this fear goes into the subconscious, you'll notice here with the amygdala that after this fear is entered into it and it's not allowed to calm back down to a normal, safe feeling, it actually is not able to go back down to normal because that fear is blocking it. And so then it stays. This is like its new normal starting point. So this means that the next time a thunderstorm happens, it's already that much closer to activating again. So let's give you another example. We're going to keep that fear in there. And let's say that mom was taking you out for a little stroll in your stroller. It could be 6 months old, 18 months old. You could be 5 years old. It could be 25 years old. Let's say that this happens when you were 6 or 9 months old. You're walking, you're being pushed in your stroller, and all of a sudden this big dog comes bounding up, barking, barking, barking. And as you're in the stroller and you're looking up at mom or you're looking at this dog, the fear activates in you and your amygdala fires and goes, oh, danger. And the dog creates that automatic response of fear because your body, your mind wants to keep you safe. And so now you have this awareness that dogs are scary. I can't keep these in here. So now you have this awareness that dogs are scary, right? And let's say that even mom reacts. And so as you're seeing the dog and you've activated into this fear response, now you're looking at mom and mom is going, ah! And that gets programmed even more into your brain. And now you're like, holy crap, if this person who's that big is so scared, I definitely can't handle dogs. And now this fear of dogs stays with you. And you might not even realize that you had a fear of dogs that was programmed in you when you were 6 months old, because you can't cognitively remember that or consciously remember that. But your subconscious has been programmed with that fear. Okay. So it's another example. Parents are fighting. Now, you know what? Sometimes parents fight. Sometimes it gets a little bit loud. But when that loudness happens, the amygdala fires. And you're like, oh, what was that? Am I safe? And if the parents stop fighting, it goes back down and it doesn't get programmed in. But if they fight over and over and over and over and over and over again, then pretty soon you can generalize that fighting into any loud noise, a loud noise of other people fighting, the loud noise of a teacher raising their voice at you, or your perception of being yelled at can now trigger that fear response. And that is now put into your subconscious to remain with you. And now we have even less ability to go back down to normal. And let's say dad came home drunk one day, and dad's not such a nice guy when he drinks. And when he's drunk and you're afraid, you fired. And if that happens over and over and over again, pretty soon you could generalize that into men who look like dad, men who drink, men in general. And now that gets programmed into your subconscious. And now you have more. And now it's getting even harder to close down. And this becomes your new normal starting point. Let's say you were lost or left alone. Mom ran into the convenience store real quick to grab a pack of cigarettes or a gallon of milk. and you were out in the car by yourself, or maybe she left you home alone at home because, she thought you were okay at 5 years old to take care of yourself for 2 hours. Whatever, that happens, right? Okay. So you have this fear now of, I'm going to be left and nobody's going to be taking care of me. How can I take care of myself? And so now that fires your amygdala. And maybe she's gone for 5 minutes, but at 3 or 5 years old, 5 minutes can seem like an eternity. So trauma to us as an adult isn't necessarily the same perception to someone who's itty bitty. Remember, it's how their brain perceives it. And so if you're left alone a lot, or even just that one incident can create now an ongoing fear of abandonment. And now that gets programmed into your subconscious mind. Another example, assault. Assault can also make the amygdala fire, obviously. And the amygdala fires and it says, am I safe? I'm not safe. And it's not going to feel safe again until the assault ends. And sometimes it doesn't even feel safe for days, weeks, and even years after that. And then that can generalize into feeling so unsafe that you don't even go anywhere anymore. And then that stays in your subconscious mind. And now this is your new normal starting point. So anything that's similar to one or all of these things, you're easily triggered and you're firing at fear, anger, over and over again. And I'm here to tell you that when all this is firing all the time, you're breaking your body down. Because our body is programmed to respond to negatives. And it floods our system with adrenaline and then cortisol. And it tries to bring it back to homeostasis when the danger is over. And so when we go into this fight or flight response, we need that adrenaline to go to our extremities, our hands, our legs, to get the heck out of there or to fight and save ourselves. And when the traumas continuously happen, or when the negatives are always in our life, and children don't have a lot of control, when it's always happening and we're always firing, we're always flooding our system with those toxic chemicals that aren't supposed to be in long term. If they're left in, if they continue to be created long term, it can actually break the body down. It eats the muscles, it harms the heart, the digestive system, ulcers, headaches. These are all symptoms of having too much stress chemicals flowing through your body. And so I'd like to explain to you also what happens when we release trauma from our system. And so maybe you've seen an animal show where there's a lion or a cheetah chasing a gazelle because, they're predator animals and they just do what automatically, instinctually comes to them. When they're hungry, they don't think to themselves, hey, I think I'll go to my kitchen in my lair and cook me up some scrambled eggs. They just do automatically what they're programmed to do. And so as they're chasing that gazelle, let's say that gazelle immediately recognizes it's in danger. Its amygdala is activated. It takes off in flight mode because prey animals usually are programmed to go into flight mode first to get away. Most prey animals don't have a lot of fight capabilities, right? And so as it's running away, because that's what it's programmed to do in its mind, that lion chases it and jumps on it. Now, for whatever reason, let's say the lion doesn't decide to eat it at that moment and takes it back to its lair. So when the lion jumps on it, the gazelle's natural instinct is to go into freeze mode. And that happens even with humans, that when we realize, and this can happen instantaneously, when we realize that there is no way of flight and I cannot fight, we freeze. What also happens with that freeze mode is that we dissociate. Our mind will leave our body, so we don't actually feel the trauma of the trauma. So when that happens to the gazelle and it goes into freeze mode, its mind checks out, so it doesn't actually feel being eaten. Kind of an interesting defense mechanism. So this also explains why sometimes when we as humans dissociate, we don't remember what happened because we're not actually in body when it happens. So say the gazelle is brought back to wherever it's going to be eaten later on, and the lion goes off and does its thing. The gazelle isn't actually hurt enough where it's going to die. It comes back into its body mentally, and you'll notice that it starts shaking. Shake, 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 and it shakes all of that trauma off. that uses everything that was put into its body, that stored trauma before it froze, and it has to release it when it becomes unfrozen. Now, if it's not allowed to release it, it actually gets stored in long-term trauma memory, the subconscious, and it compounds and it compounds and it compounds. Now, this doesn't happen with wild animals because they always are allowed to shake it off. They don't have a mom or a dad that says, oh, hey, you shouldn't be that scared. It really wasn't that bad. Don't cry over that. That's silly to be afraid of. They're allowed to go, whoa, this was terrible. And they shake it off. And then when they shake it off, they get up and they run away. Okay. And so when we as humans are not allowed to release that traumatic experience physiologically, it gets stuck in our brain. Emotionally, it gets stuck in our brain. We have to have the ability to move, to release, to shake it off, to get rid of all of those toxins in any way that we are able to get rid of them. And so in therapy, in hypnotherapy, we oftentimes will allow the person to go back into an experience where they felt helpless and they felt like they had absolutely no control over themselves and regain control in their mind so that they can release that stuck trauma. So now you know a little bit about how trauma affects the mind and how the mind responds to situations that create anger and fear in them. We have the ability to handle negative situations. Each and every time we experience something negative, if we are allowed then to release it verbally, physically, emotionally, then that allows us to actually build up this part of us that is called resilience. So I encourage you the next time your child or yourself encounters a situation that is difficult, to allow them or yourself to express it, to release it, to realize that you have the strength, the ability to make it through it, as well as become stronger from it. And so in the next video, I'm going to show you how some of these traumas and these programs that are taught to us as children stay in the subconscious mind, and how we as hypnotherapists or a hypnotherapist that you may see in the future can help you to remove these traumas. And so that your amygdala, your subconscious mind, can feel safe once again. Because it can actually be done. So I'd like to thank you for watching this video and thank everybody that encouraged me, whether you realize you are encouraging me or not, to make this video. And I encourage you, if you're thinking about making a video or an audio or writing a song or a poem or whatever it is that you want to do, just do it. Get it done, because I know you can.